Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of From the Nosebleeds. They're back again. We got from the Nayo.com, we got Evan. And from Sports USA Today Sports is Pat. And from he's also from Fanside.com. Talk about Mets and Giants stuff and everything in between. These are my insiders. These are my friends. And we're going to talk about a little bit about basketball today. Nets and Knicks. So obviously, the Nets made the playoffs. Definitely know what they were expecting. Try to put a little bit of a fight against the 76ers, but ultimately they lost the series and now are joining the Knicks and heading to, the NBA draft. So what did you take away from this series? Pat, let's start with you.
Well, the Nets certainly came out and stole a statement win in Philly in Game 1, which was really encouraging, and they got a little momentum initially. Like, winning Game 1 is always huge in any playoff series, and unfortunately they wound up losing the next 2 straight games and lost some momentum there, and Embiid didn't play in Game 3, and the Nets still lost. It was a close series, but once Game 4 came around and the Nets were leading most of the game, they ultimately got in a brawl with Jared Dudley united against Ben Simmons and Embiid. Him and Ben Simmons were going back and forth against each other all series. And Embiid, he after sitting in Game 3 with an injury, he went off for a combined 54 points in the final 2 games, in Games 4 and 5. And the Nets totally just, they kind of laid down for the last couple games and wound up losing 4 straight games and losing in 5 after stealing Game 1. And my one takeaway from Game 1 is it definitely reminds you of the Philadelphia 76ers in the 2001 NBA Finals, where Allen Iverson, the famous step-over game over Ty Lue.
Absolutely, yep.
Won the finals and then wound up losing the series. They too kind of laid down, the rest of the series, and the Lakers handled them pretty easily.
Any thoughts on you? Any thoughts that you want to share, Evan?
I was I was like happily surprised that the Nets even made it to the playoffs, to be honest.
Sure, they were very rocky towards the end. They had a good run, then 500, then lost, and then 500, so yeah.
Yeah, and especially since I've seen them over the years, like, they've been really crappy over the last couple years, this was definitely an improvement in making it to playoffs. That's, definitely a step up. I'm personally a Knicks fan. I'll always be a Knicks fan. It's very hard to watch the Knicks nowadays. I had a lot of hope back, 5 years ago, when they got, what's his name?
Carmelo Anthony?
No. The general manager.
Tony Walsh?
No. He was the coach
Phil Jackson took over.
Phil Jackson?
Yeah, Phil Jackson. Okay. Yeah. When they got him, I was like, okay, this guy, he's obviously coached some serious talent over the years. I thought that he would be able to help the team out, but it doesn't look like it's happening. So, in terms of, I don't know. It's kind of just taking a gamble with relying on the Knicks nowadays. So yeah, that's my perspective. And good for the Nets. They did pretty well. They made it to the first round. They lost to the 76ers, but it's a good step up.
I totally agree. Obviously near the end, it was like I was saying, it was very wishy-washy. They were in 6th, they dropped down to 7. They were almost 8th and almost out of the playoff picture, and then they fought their way back up to the 6th. And then I talked in my previous video. At that specific moment in time, they're gonna play the Pacers, which for me I thought was gonna be a good matchup for them. That's a matchup they definitely could have won. After shaking things out, they played the 76ers, and I was like, well, there goes that. Obviously, even from last year, the 76ers are a little bit more battle tested. The Nets haven't been in the playoffs, and they just didn't have enough firepower to go against the Embiid, the Simmons, the Redick's, the Jimmy Butlers, and that's a stacked team. Tobias Harris, for as short as it is, it's still a great team. If any Nets fan was realistic, like you said, they stole Game 1, which no one really expected them, and that's, like you said, it's a great way to start off a series, especially 0-1, especially not at home, to steal a game that's every team's dream when you're not playing at home, and you're setting the tone for the series. But then they just looked like they were just overpowered, and like you said, they were playing hurt with the hurt Embiid for a while, and then he didn't even play for one of the games, and they still couldn't even manage that. But I think I still think it's a winning season in my opinion. Obviously for making the playoffs, showing case that no one thought that they would be there. and the fact that they did, and they did play hard for the most part. Sometimes it's just a lack of star power, a lack of experience, and it really showed in that series, I think, for the Nets. And hopefully they build off it. D'Angelo Russell hopefully continues to get better. He's still a young player. He's gonna be his fourth year in the league. So he's really taking the bull by the horns and being the leader of that team, and showcase that he wants to be here, he wants to show up, and he wants to be the leader of this team. So I think the Nets are heading into a good direction. Obviously not the results they wanted, but it's too much star power. You have Ben Simmons and Embiid leading the charge for the 76ers.
No question. This was a huge year for the Nets, and D'Angelo Russell, took a huge jump. He's one of the smoothest shooters in the game, next to Devin Booker and James Harden and Curry. Russell had a great year. He may wind up winning Most Improved Player. He took a huge jump, and Coach Kenny Atkinson had a heck of a year too. And in the end, it was just a little too much. The Sixers were really talented and more battle tested, and that's why I think the Nets this summer is big for the Nets, because they need to go after an above average 3 and 4 to add to their lineup. They're in need of a big man. They have Jared Allen, who is pretty good, but they need someone to complement him, and they could definitely use a nice 3 forward in their lineup. Whether it be Durant, if you're shooting high, which they should, coming off this playoff appearance, you're trying to go after Kevin Durant to come in, and that would clearly put them over the next level. But realistically, they could get a guy like Tobias Harris, who will probably be looking for more money than the Sixers can afford.
Right.
As far as the series went, guys like D'Angelo Russell and LeVert and Dinwiddie all had good series, and then everyone kind of just disappeared in Game 5. Sixers got out to a 14-0 run to start that game at home, and never looked back, and everyone else was kind of just invisible for the rest of the game. And as for adding another big man, DeMarcus Cousins is going to be a free agent once again.
Right.
He's coming off another serious injury, but if it's for the right price, I would definitely take a flyer on him if he's willing to take another one-year deal like he did this year, or even slightly overpay for him on a 2-year deal. But he just tore his quad, and there's reports that he actually may come back this postseason, which seems a little crazy. But I think that he would, regardless, even coming off the 2 major injuries the last 2 years, he'd definitely complement the Nets nice.
I totally agree. Adding on to that really young nucleus of obviously Russell, Harris, LeVert, who I still obviously had the injury mid-season and was able to come back for this season, but I still think obviously mind games of I don't want to tear it again, I don't want to hurt myself again, and then lose next year as well. I still they're still tentative about that, but to me he was gonna be the all-star, and then once he went down, D'Angelo just went off. So but obviously that core nucleus of him, Jared Allen, D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert, even Kodex, who was in the in All-Star Weekend as well with Jared Allen in the Rising Stars Challenge. They have a really good young nucleus along with good, veteran presence with, Dudley, Dinwiddie, who fill the roles and stuff like that. But I definitely think they need one more, like you said, I would definitely love a power forward, a star power forward to come to balance it out. I think they could do without a 3 because Joe Harris is a very smart player. He's a playmaker. He does all the little things that you want, and so he's a glue guy that I always stick him in the starting lineup. But a star forward, where Jared Allen is a more defensive player. Obviously, he can do double doubles. He did it all this year. But definitely someone to take the pressure off and open up Karis to slash in or D'Angelo to shoot the 3. Definitely a star power forward, and more of the offensive side. To take the pressure off and definitely lead this team as more of a star as D'Angelo still continues to grow into after obviously being an all-star this year, to being a fill-in, but nonetheless it's no token taken away from him, but definitely a little bit more proven, battle tested power forward to open up everything else. I think that's something they definitely need to target for this offseason.
Wait, who do you think? Okay, what do you think the likelihood of KD actually coming to New York is? Either the Nets or the Knicks. You mentioned I think the Knicks is where I was hearing, right?
So let's head into it. Our next topic was, can the Knicks or the Nets get a big time free agent? Obviously Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have been linked to the Knicks, and everyone's saying it's 100% the Knicks. Kevin Durant is going to the Knicks. I'd be shocked if it isn't. Executives, they pretty much wrote it down that KD's. But do you think it's a realistic possibility? And or does the Nets pull him away? Saying, hey, we made the playoffs. We have a great little nucleus already built. They've already been battle tested, and the Knicks don't have that. Do you think the Nets can pull it off, or maybe get someone else to come in and get their way?
They have a great coaching staff, and they're already more far along than the Knicks. The Knicks are kind of a mess of an organization right now, and players know that. And that could keep, along with the New York media, that could keep Durant away from coming.
I could see that. I mean, I do think that he wants to be the star. So if he was on the Knicks, he'd obviously be like the clear star on the team. And I think that was one of his issues with being on the Warriors, is that like he was not the, you know what I mean? Like it was him having to share the spotlight, and I don't think he likes that.
Yeah, but he went there and he got what he wanted. He got 2 championships and got 2 NBA Finals MVP back to back.
That's true. He was there for what? 3 years, 2 years or 3 years, something like that.
2 years, and he's going for 3 this year, and he's shooting. What is he averaging? 38.8 points a game now in the playoffs, and that's insane.
That's true. He wants it. That's true. LeBron James did the same
player on the Warriors right now. There's no question. He hasn't scored below 35 points in a playoff game probably since sometime last year. I haven't checked that stat, but this year he's been pretty much unconscious. Warriors now blew that 2-0 lead that they had last night. James Harden went off again for 38, and they evened that series up. But when it comes down to it, once Curry gets going, and they're just, I think, too strong. Even without DeMarcus Cousins, they have Klay Thompson, and the way Durant's playing, I think that they'll probably wind up winning the championship again. As for this summer, the Knicks, this is an even bigger summer for the Knicks, that they have to be so aggressive in trying to get Durant here, trying to get Kyrie, and then hopefully drafting a Zion Williamson or even an RJ Barrett with the first 3 picks, depending on how the lottery results go. As for Durant, I heard that he actually moved his business to New York, which is something that LeBron did in LA last summer, which kind of hinted at him, at his decision. He did a couple things, enrolling his kids in private school out in LA too as well, before he made the jump. But I think Durant could possibly be on his way. There's some rumors that he might join the Lakers or even possibly the Clippers, who were the 8th seed this year and had a lot of talent around them. But I also was hearing that Durant said he didn't want to play with LeBron. I mean, he's already gone. He went and joined the Warriors, won his championships, probably is going to win his 3rd championship in a row this summer. And then to solidify his legacy, I think that he needs to go to like a Knicks or a Nets or somewhere he can carry a team to a championship, because he has nothing left to prove. I mean, what do you have left to prove? True. You won your 3 rings.
Well, that was my question. That it's a pseudo question into that, where do you think, let's say, if the Warriors win, is there a possibility he stays with Golden State, or is he completely done? Or if he loses, does he jump shit and tries?
I don't think so, just for the fact,
he doesn't have good teammates. He doesn't like his teammates. Wasn't it Draymond Green that he kept getting into fights with? That was KD. Yeah, I think that he doesn't want to be on a team with him anymore.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, they were kind of going at it because Draymond was like, "Oh, why don't you just leave already? Like, you're clearly going to leave after the season because someone's probably going to offer him a crazy amount of money that the Warriors can't afford."
Right.
But Klay Thompson's also a free agent too, so if they have the possibility, they'll probably have the possibility of retaining one of those 2 guys, and I don't know. I think that Durant probably is just going to walk after he wins his 3rd. Go on to the next one. And hopefully. I mean, he got judged a lot for joining up with this Warriors team, but, now he has a chance to solidify his legacy by doing what LeBron did, winning his championships with the Heat, teaming up with some All-Stars there, and D-Wade and Bosh, and then going back to Cleveland and winning a championship there. I think Durant, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know his true intentions, but, I mean, I think that would make his legacy look even better than it already is.
Now, let's say if Durant signs with the Knicks, does Kyrie come along? Does Kyrie sign with the Knicks? Yeah, clearly he doesn't want to be the man.
You don't think so? He's done with the
I mean,
Celtics?
There have been reports to where he's like, I love Boston. I'd be glad if they got back. He's like, then he said literally like 2 days later, he's like, I don't know anything. Like, he's very wishy-washy. So he was like, I love LeBron. I wish I could, basically saying that like. I thought I was ready to be the man, but I kind of not, and I'm cool with just like being like a co-star with it. And I was like, okay. So,
But is KD cool to be a co-star with somebody else?
I mean, he did it with Russell Westbrook. He's doing it with three other people on the Warriors. But you know,
no, that was earlier in his career, and now that he's like been the king of it, like he was on the like the superstar team, like the Warriors, like that team. If you played like 2K, like that team was better than some of the like the all-star, like the game, like the teams that don't actually exist, like the best player for each position. Like that's how that team would play. So I don't know. I mean, it's a different point in his career back from when he was on the Spurs and before, like, and then now when he was on the Warriors. I feel like he wants to be was it the Thunder?
The Thunder.
Okay, my bad.
I
my bad. Yeah.
I don't have any problem teaming up with Kyrie, and I think at this point, Kyrie's definitely gone from Boston. They just went down 3-1 last night to the Bucks, and I think Kyrie's fed up with being on the Celtics. It hasn't really gone well this year. I think Kyrie wants to play for the Knicks or even possibly the Nets, but the Knicks make the most sense, and I think there's a higher chance of Kyrie coming here than Durant. But that could lure Durant over here too, to play. I know that he wants to play with some other good players, but he did say, apparently he reportedly said that he didn't want to team up with LeBron, but could team up with Kyrie. And as for Kyrie, with what he just said about LeBron is that LeBron was right, about teaming up, about being the guy is a lot tougher, and Kyrie learned that firsthand, and now I think that he's definitely overstayed his welcome in Boston, and that probably realistically Kyrie will come to the Knicks this summer, hopefully.
I mean, I'd be down. I always love stealing players away from Boston. As a New York fan, you gotta be.
So do we assume the Nets get neither of these guys, or do they get anyone at all of like major significance, or do they just make slower, smaller moves to just increase the team's, overall as, better positioning, maybe someone who fits their system right and stuff like that?
I think they get Tobias Harris realistically, and then possibly another big man, either a depth move or even DeMarcus Cousins if they're aggressive towards him. I know even coming off these two major injuries, he's going to want to get paid. He wanted to get paid this year and then wound up going to the Warriors to show what he could do coming off the torn Achilles. And I think the Nets, their top realistic target should probably be Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, good pickup, good 3-and-D guy, tough, gritty. Proven. Everyone wants him. Everyone trades him, but he's a player that everyone wants. Do you think the Nets get anybody, Evan?
I don't know. I mean, like, in terms of the draft for coming up, my eyes obviously are on Zion, coming out of Duke.
They're not getting. I mean, they're not even top 5.
No. Yeah. So, and he's not. Wait, is he up next year or the year after? I think he's 2 years from now, right? Zion, right?
Zion's in this draft.
Oh, he's in this draft? Okay.
He's going to be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, hopefully, I would love for him to be from the Knicks, I guess. I mean, like, I'm always going to root for the Knicks.
Evan's already transitioning to our next topic. So
in terms of the Nets, I don't know. I mean, who would they realistically get? I don't know. Honestly.
Doesn't know? All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Talking about it, it's all about the lottery. The Knicks have one of 3 teams, having about a 14% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. Everyone's been knowing this since pretty much the day he stepped foot on Duke, that Zion Williamson will most likely be the number 1 overall pick. However, guys, if the Knicks don't get the 1 pick, and they get the 2 or 3 pick, who do you think they will get and draft in the top 3 if they don't get number 1?
I want it to be either RJ Barrett or Ja Morant. Obviously, I would pick Barrett. Barrett's 6'7", and he's a 2 guard, which the Knicks desperately need, that they don't have right now. Barrett's a very polished player. Really, he's another good 3-and-D guy, and he's an elite passer. And I think that he could do great with the Knicks if they wind up drafting him, and hopefully bringing in a combination of Kyrie and Durant. And they have Kevin Knox from last year too.
So if they get number 2, you're going RJ Barrett?
Yes, I think so.
And if they get number 3, are you picking Ja Morant, who most people still like?
Absolutely.
Do you not think that we're very guard heavy? And then we'll have Dennis Smith, Alonzo Trier. That's already 2 players plus whoever else we have on our trash team.
I mean, you just answered your question right
Kyrie,
there.
and if Kyrie comes, that's already another point guard. I mean, that'll affect everyone. So that's already 3 point guards, 4 guards in total. That's a very loaded backcourt with not a lot of height.
I'm not letting Dennis Smith Jr. decide who I bring in and who I don't, Kyrie would be a major upgrade for the Knicks. Knicks haven't really even had a true point guard in years, and having Dennis Smith Jr. should not stop the Knicks from getting Kyrie or even RJ Barrett in the draft. You can never have too many good players, and the Knicks desperately need them. They desperately need these stars to come in and some impact players to turn this franchise around quick, sooner rather than later.
All right, Evan?
I'm gonna have to agree with him. I think that we haven't had a guard in years, and having more the merrier. I feel like at this point, I think that I mean it's so hard to get excited about it because I've been let down so many times with the Knicks. I think that the two choices he went with, Barrett and the other guy, I think that those would be solid picks, if they get second or third. I think that, and I'm not so worried about like the guard thing. I think that they can deal with that as the time comes around.
All right, so we got RJ Barrett as a clear number 2 and John Morant as a, if we get 3, as a clear 3. I agree. I think if RJ comes, like the height, you can't teach height. Everyone says it. You can't teach height. My man put up a couple triple doubles as a Duke player. He can pass, he can shoot, he can drive in. Obviously not the flash of Zion, but definitely, I think he was definitely more, controlled at times when Zion definitely, he was just a flash. So I think RJ would definitely be number 2. If we get number 3 and we go John Morant, I mean, he played my alma mater, Marquette. He killed us. He had a triple-double, 17 points, 11 or 12 assists, and, 10 rebounds. Obviously a skilled player from a smaller school, but, that's proven to be a non-issue anymore of, smaller schools with great players. Damian Lillard, you see what he's doing now. If they go John Morant, and if we sign Kyrie, I think we should let Dennis Smith go. I don't think we don't need him. We don't need, that's that's a lot of point guards. Obviously you can flip one of them to go to the 2 guard. Dennis Smith can be a slasher. He's more of a slasher than a shooter. So it'll be more difficult. Obviously John Morant can be a shooter as well. But that's a lot of minutes for a lot of highly talented guys that you don't have the time to put it. So if we could trade back, maybe get some draft picks for later on in the first round or even in the second round, I think obviously teams would love to have Dennis Smith. Highly coveted, only 2 years in the league. Really fast player. So, I think one of them. That's if Kyrie doesn't come. Or if it comes, if Kyrie doesn't come, I would definitely take John Morant. Obviously, no problem there. So I definitely agree with you with RJ Barrett as being a clear number 2, and then John Morant, most likely being the number 3 free agents in that lottery. But we'll find out. There's possibility we could be even 4 or 5 and not get any of those guys. But that's every Knicks fan's worst nightmare if that happens. But
I agree. This team needs a complete makeover, and I think that Dennis Smith Jr. showcased his skill set once the Knicks traded for him last year. So I think a lot of teams would be interested in him if he doesn't wind up staying and playing in a lesser role for the Knicks if they bring in Kyrie and a possible John Morant or RJ Barrett. So I really think that he definitely increased his value at the end of last season. So the Knicks need a roster turnover. They're in desperate need of one.
Hey, at least they have money to spend now.
They do have the money to spend. So, obviously, they can
helpful.
sign up to possibly 2 max free agents. Everyone, like we said before, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are definitely the top targets. If they don't get one of these 2 free agents, or if they get 0 of them, is it a fail for the Knicks? Yes
Absolutely.
or no? Fail.
If they need to at least get 1, and they absolutely need 2. So if they don't get either of them, it's a complete failure. If they get 1, it's okay. It is what it is. That they could still be a solid team, but getting both those players and then getting one of those top 3 players in the draft is something that'll put them over the edge, make them immediate contenders, I think, in the NBA. And anything less, it's a disappointment this summer after all the hype we've heard, and especially after they traded Porzingis last season, surprisingly.
Right, absolutely.
No, I think it's a fail for sure.
Fail.
Yeah, if they don't get either of them, it's definitely a fail.
All right, here's Mr. Dolan. If you don't get one of these guys, it's a fail. Hopefully, he's definitely not watching us, but that's all right. That's he'd probably just kick me out of the garden if he did anyway. So, banned for life.
I'll ban your video blog.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you guys for tuning in. As always, this is Evan from thenayo.com and Pat from USA Today Sports and Fanside.com. I'm Dan Carcamo, your host. Until you guys next time. Peace.